This title is presented to you by Soundlibra.com. For more audiobooks like this, click the link in the description or visit our website at Soundlibra.com. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journal. Today, we embark on a journey to uncover your greatest leadership asset.
And that asset, Alex, is you. Specifically, understanding yourself better.
Exactly, Lisa. Now, before we really dive in, just a quick heads up that while we're exploring leadership and personal growth, this isn't professional mental health or medical advice. So definitely consult with a professional for specific guidance.
That's an important note. So many leaders, especially those new to it, operate on autopilot. They might be technically brilliant or have a great idea, but they're missing that deeper connection to themselves and others.
Precisely. They're often driving a powerful vehicle without a clear understanding of its steering wheel, its accelerator, or even its brakes. They react impulsively, misunderstand team dynamics, and can even alienate the very people they're trying to inspire. This lack of self-understanding leads to what we call unconscious leadership.
Unconscious leadership. It sounds a bit dangerous.
It can be. Imagine a captain steering a ship through a storm, but they've never taken the time to learn the ship's capabilities, its limitations, or even how to read the compass effectively. They might be decisive, but their decisions could be based on incomplete information or deeply ingrained, unexamined habits. This is where the real work begins, unveiling the power of self-awareness.
So, for our listeners, what are we talking about when we say self-awareness in a leadership context? Is it just introspection?
It's much more than just quiet reflection, though that's a part of it. Self-awareness for leaders means having a clear perception of your personality, including strengths, weaknesses, thoughts, beliefs, motivation, and emotions. It's about understanding how you, as an individual, impact others. It's the ability to see yourself clearly, as if looking in a mirror, and understand what drives your behavior.
And why is this so crucial for leadership specifically? How does knowing your own motivations help you guide a team?
That's the core of it, Lisa. When you understand your own motivations, you can better understand the motivations of others. You recognize your biases, your triggers, and your default responses to stress or conflict. This awareness allows you to manage your reactions proactively, rather than being controlled by them. For example, if you know you tend to get frustrated when projects fall behind schedule, self-awareness allows you to prepare for that feeling, address the root cause calmly, and communicate effectively with your team rather than lashing out.
Okay, so it's about managing yourself before you can manage others. It helps you stay calm and rational even when things are tough.
Exactly. And it's not just about emotions. It's about understanding your strengths and weaknesses. As a leader, you can't be good at everything. Self-awareness allows you to identify what you excel at, so you can lean into those strengths and delegate tasks that play to other strengths. Simultaneously, it helps you recognize areas where you need development. This honesty about your limitations is incredibly freeing and makes you a more approachable leader.
So, instead of trying to be good at everything, you focus on what you do best and build a team that complements your skills. That sounds much more efficient.
Infinitely more efficient. Think about it. A self-aware leader can solicit and accept constructive feedback because they're not invested in a false image of themselves. They see feedback as data, as an opportunity to grow, not as a personal attack. This fosters an environment of trust and continuous improvement within the team.
That's a stark contrast to a leader who's defensive and sees any suggestion as criticism. I can see how that shuts down communication immediately.
It does. And it's not just about personal interactions. Self-awareness impacts strategic thinking. Leaders who understand their own cognitive biases, their inherent tendencies to think in certain ways, like confirmation bias or overconfidence bias, are better equipped to make sound, objective decisions. They can consciously question their assumptions and seek diverse perspectives.
So, self-awareness is almost like a built-in reality check for your decision-making process. It helps you avoid common mental pitfalls.
Precisely. And to bring this full circle, it's the foundation for everything else we'll explore in this series. Understanding your personality, uncovering your blind spots, aligning your values, managing your emotions, navigating relationships, leveraging your strengths, and even receiving feedback. They all stem from this central pillar of self-knowledge.
It really does sound like a superpower. You're not just leading tasks, you're leading people, and you can't do that effectively without knowing yourself.
And that's the core message for our first episode. Self-awareness isn't an endpoint. It's a continuous process, a journey of discovery. The leaders who excel are those who commit to this ongoing exploration of their inner world, understanding that this personal growth directly translates into greater effectiveness and impact in their leadership.
So, to recap for our listeners, we've kicked off by introducing the concept of self awareness as your most critical leadership superpower. We've discussed how unconscious leadership can lead to missteps and how understanding your personality, motivations, strengths, and weaknesses allows you to manage yourself effectively. This self management, in turn, improves your decision making, makes you more open to feedback, and ultimately helps you build stronger relationships and guide your team with greater clarity and purpose.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. This foundational understanding is what we'll build upon in the coming episodes. The journey to becoming a self-aware leader starts now.
And it's a journey we're excited to take with you.
Next episode, we'll be diving deep into decoding your unique blueprint with an exploration of personality patterns. Welcome back. Last time, we unveiled why self-awareness is your leadership superpower.
And it truly is the foundation for everything else, Alex. It's empowering to know this is the key to better leadership and understanding ourselves.
Exactly. Today, we're diving deeper to decode your unique blueprint by understanding personality patterns. Think of it as getting your personal user manual.
A user manual, I love that. I've often reacted without really understanding why. So, how do we start decoding this blueprint?
We begin with fundamental personality dimensions, like the introvert-extrovert spectrum. This is about where you get your energy.
Introverts and extroverts. I identify as an introvert, but can I be both?
It's not about shy versus outgoing. Extroverts gain energy from external stimulation and often think out loud.
So, a busy social gathering recharges an extrovert, but can be draining for an introvert like me.
Precisely. Introverts gain energy from their internal world, quiet reflection, and solitude. They often process thoughts internally before speaking,
That makes sense. As a leader, an extrovert might prefer group brainstorming, I imagine.
right? And an introvert might prefer one-on-one meetings or giving time for thought before discussions. Understanding this helps you adapt your style to be more effective.
It's about leveraging natural tendencies, not judging them. What's another key dimension?
Next is how we take in information. Sensing versus intuition. Sensors focus on facts, details, and the tangible present.
So, a sensor notices specific project details or contract wording. They focus on the what and how.
Exactly. Intuitives, however, focus on patterns, possibilities, and the future. They're interested in abstract concepts and the big picture.
An intuitive leader might envision new products or spot emerging trends, focusing on long-term strategy.
That's a perfect description. Think about how these approaches complement each other. A sensor might ask for more proof, while an intuitive might be frustrated by a lack of future vision.
It's like one person studies the detailed map and the other scans the horizon. Both are valuable. If I'm a sensor leader, I need to encourage big picture thinking. If I'm intuitive, I must ensure I'm grounded with facts.
Absolutely. This leads to how we make decisions. Thinking versus feeling. Thinkers base decisions on logic, objectivity, and fair principles.
A thinker leader might deliver difficult feedback impersonally, focusing on what's best for the organization.
That's common. Feelers, on the other hand, base decisions on values and personal impact, considering how a decision affects people.
So, a feeler leader prioritizes team morale or considers employee circumstances. They focus on relationships and harmony.
Exactly. Imagine a team of all thinkers, efficient but potentially lacking empathy, or all feelers, nurturing but struggling with tough decisions.
It highlights the need for diverse perspectives. For leaders, understanding their own style is key to incorporating others. So, we've covered energy sources, introversion and extroversion, how we gather information, sensing and intuition, and how we make decisions, thinking and feeling.
That's a great summary, Lisa. Many frameworks combine these, but at their core, they explain fundamental ways we interact with the world.
Understanding these patterns explains our behaviors and preferences. It's not about being confined, but about understanding the drivers so we can adapt and grow.
Precisely. Recognizing your natural tendencies, like needing solitude or favoring logic, is about understanding your starting point. From there, you can consciously choose how to act, communicate, and lead more effectively.
So, when I'm drained after an event, I can say, "This is my introverted energy depletion," instead of feeling inadequate.
Exactly. It empowers you to manage your energy. As a leader, understanding these team patterns helps you delegate effectively and foster an environment where everyone contributes their strengths. It's about building on your blueprint, not being confined by it.
This episode has been incredibly insightful, Alex. It's like seeing the underlying structure of myself. Understanding these personality patterns is the next crucial step in building self-awareness.
It truly is. By decoding your blueprint, you gain a profound understanding of your natural inclinations. This knowledge is the foundation for recognizing your blind spots, which we'll tackle next.
Building on personality patterns to uncover blind spots, I can feel the momentum.
For our listeners, reflect on these dimensions this week. Are you more introverted or extroverted? How do you gather information and make decisions? Your self-awareness journey is an ongoing, rewarding process.
Absolutely. Understanding these patterns is the first step to leading better.
Next episode, shifting your lens, uncovering your blind spots. Welcome back. Last time we covered decoding your blueprint, understanding personality patterns. Now let's tackle shifting your lens to uncover your blind spots.
Blind spots. That sounds a little daunting, Alex. We're talking about those areas of ourselves as leaders that we just don't see. They're like the potholes on a road trip you never knew were there until you hit one, right?
Exactly, Lisa. They're aspects of our behavior, our perceptions, or our impact on others that are unclear to us, but very visible to the people around us. They can definitely derail our leadership journey if we're not careful. They're difficult to see because, by definition, they're areas where our self-perception doesn't match reality.
So, what kind of things fall into this category? Can you give us some examples of leadership blind spots?
Certainly, a classic example is assuming everyone interprets information the same way you do. You might think your instructions are crystal clear, but your team might find them vague or confusing. Another common one is misjudging how your communication style is received. You might intend to be direct, but others perceive you as aggressive. Or perhaps you're unaware of how your stress levels affect your team's morale.
That makes sense. It's like you're operating with a map, but there are parts missing that everyone else can see. And those missing pieces can lead to missteps. So, why are they so hard to uncover on our own?
It's a combination of factors. We tend to rely on our own internal compass, our own experiences, and our own way of seeing the world. This is what we call our frame of reference. When something doesn't fit that frame, our brains often try to explain it away or ignore it. It's a natural human tendency to seek confirmation of our existing beliefs and perspectives. We also develop habits and routines in how we interact with the world, and these become so ingrained that we don't even notice them anymore.
So, it's like wearing glasses with a smudge you don't realize is there. You can still see, but everything is just a little bit blurry in that one spot. How can we start to even notice there is a smudge?
That's the million-dollar question, and it requires us to actively shift our lens. The most powerful tool we have for uncovering blind spots is seeking external perspectives. We need to deliberately and humbly ask for feedback from those we trust and interact with regularly. Think of it as deliberately looking for those smudges on your glasses.
Asking for feedback. That sounds like the gateway. But I imagine not everyone asks for it effectively, or perhaps they don't know how to ask.
You've hit on a critical point. It's not just about asking. It's about asking the right questions and, crucially, being open to the answers. When you ask for feedback, be specific. Instead of a general, "How am I doing?" try, "When I led the meeting on Tuesday, how clear were my instructions regarding the project deadlines?" Or, "In our last team discussion about the new initiative, how did my contributions land with you? Was there anything I said that was unclear or unhelpful?"
Specific questions get specific answers. I like that. And what happens when you get the feedback? It probably won't always be easy to hear.
No, it won't. And that's where emotional intelligence comes into play. The first step is to listen without defensiveness. Remind yourself that the feedback is about your behavior or impact, not about you as a person. Thank the person for their honesty. Then, take time to reflect. Don't try to process it all in the moment. Separate the data from your emotional reaction. Ask yourself, does this feedback resonate with other observations I've had? Or are there patterns here?
So, it's about gathering information, like a detective collecting clues, and then looking for recurring themes.
Precisely. Sometimes a single piece of feedback might be an outlier. But if you hear similar points from multiple people, your direct reports, your peers, or your manager, it's a strong signal that there's a blind spot you need to address. Another excellent method is using structured assessments. There are various tools available that can provide insights into your leadership style and potential blind spots, often based on feedback from others.
Structured assessments. So, like a formal survey or evaluation that gives you a report card on your blind spots.
Exactly. These can offer a more objective overview and confirm what you might be hearing anecdotally. But remember, even these assessments are only as good as the data they collect, so they work best when combined with genuine interpersonal feedback. The key is to actively create opportunities for this external input to come your way. You can also cultivate a mindset of curiosity. Approach your interactions with the intention of learning rather than just performing. This can make you more receptive to noticing things you might otherwise miss.
So, to recap what we've discussed, leadership blind spots are areas of our behavior or impact that we don't see, but others do. They're hard to spot because of how we process information and our ingrained habits. The primary ways to uncover them are by actively seeking specific feedback from trusted sources, listening without defensiveness, and looking for patterns in the feedback. Structured assessments can also provide valuable data.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. And it all circles back to self-awareness. The more we consciously work on understanding ourselves, the more adept we become at recognizing these hidden areas. It's an ongoing process, not a one-time fix. Regularly checking in, asking questions, and being genuinely open to what we hear are the cornerstones of shifting our lens and becoming more effective leaders.
It sounds like a continuous journey of discovery, and one that's incredibly valuable for personal growth and for building stronger, more trust-based relationships with our teams.
Absolutely. Because when we start to see ourselves more clearly, we can then begin to make conscious choices about how we want to show up and lead. It's about moving from unintentional impact to intentional influence.
That's a powerful thought to end on.
Next episode, the compass of purpose, aligning your values. Welcome back. Last time, we delved into uncovering your blind spots. Today, we're building on that foundation by exploring your compass of purpose and how aligning your values is crucial for leadership.
That sounds incredibly important, Alex. If you don't know where you're trying to go or what principles are guiding you, how can you reach your destination effectively?
Exactly, Lisa. Think of your values as the very core of who you are and what you stand for. They're your deeply held beliefs about what is good, right, and important. They influence your decisions, your actions, and ultimately, how you show up as a leader.
So, like honesty, integrity, compassion, innovation, those kinds of things.
Precisely. Honesty, integrity, compassion, innovation. These are all examples of core values. But it's not just about having a list of words. It's about knowing which ones resonate most deeply with you, and then ensuring your leadership is a true reflection of those principles.
And what happens when your leadership actions aren't aligned with your values? You mentioned internal conflict earlier.
Oh, the internal conflict can be immense. Imagine telling yourself that collaboration is vital, but then your actions and meetings consistently shut down dissenting opinions. Or you believe in fairness, but you consistently favor certain team members. This creates a disconnect. You might feel unease or even guilt without always pinpointing the cause.
It's like a constant, low-level hum of not being quite right, even if you can't articulate why. It must drain your energy.
It absolutely does. When your actions are out of sync with your values, you're essentially fighting against yourself. This isn't sustainable, and it impacts your effectiveness, your authenticity, and the trust others place in you. Conversely, when you live and lead with aligned values, there's a sense of flow, of integrity. You feel more grounded, and others perceive you as genuine and reliable.
So, the key is to first identify what those core values really are for us. How do we do that? It feels a bit abstract.
It can feel that way at first, but it's a very practical process. One of the best ways to start is by reflecting on moments when you felt most proud or most energized, whether that's in your professional life or personal life. What was happening in those moments? What principles were you upholding?
Okay, so thinking about peak experiences. For instance, I remember a time I worked on a project where we had a really tight deadline, but everyone pitched in, creatively solving problems together. It felt amazing because the teamwork and problem-solving aspects were so strong.
Excellent. So, teamwork and problem solving might be two values that are very important to you. Now, think about times you felt deeply frustrated or angry. What was going on then? What core value was being violated?
Hmm, frustration. I remember feeling really annoyed when a colleague took credit for a significant portion of a shared idea. I value recognition for contributions and fairness, and that felt like it wasn't present.
Fantastic. So, we've identified teamwork, problem solving, recognition, and fairness as potential core values. This is a great start. Another exercise is to consider what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. What impact do you want your leadership to have? What principles do you want to be remembered for?
That's a powerful question. I'd want to be remembered as someone who fostered growth in others, who is innovative, and who led with empathy.
See how those themes keep emerging? The more you reflect, the clearer your core values will become. I recommend making a list, perhaps of your top 3 to 5 values. Don't just write them down. Try to define what each one means to you. For example, what does integrity look like in practice for you as a leader?
That's smart, because integrity can mean different things to different people. For me, it means being transparent, even when the news isn't good, and always following through on my commitments.
Exactly. Once you have your list of core values, the next step, and this is the crucial part, is to assess the alignment. Are your daily actions, your decisions, your interactions as a leader truly reflecting these values?
This is where the self-awareness really comes in. It's about honest self-assessment. So, if I've identified collaboration as a value, and I often find myself making unilateral decisions without consulting my team, that's a clear misalignment.
Precisely. And when you spot that misalignment, it's not a moment for self-criticism, but for conscious adjustment. It's about making deliberate choices to bring your actions back into harmony with your values. If collaboration is your value, then actively seek input, create space for others to contribute, and build consensus where possible.
It's like recalibrating your compass. You notice the needle is a bit off, so you gently adjust it to point back to true north.
That's a perfect analogy, Lisa, and it's an ongoing process. Your values might evolve over time as you gain experience and learn more about yourself and the world. So, this isn't a one-time exercise. It's a continuous practice of self-reflection and adjustment.
So, to recap for our listeners, our core values are our deeply held beliefs that guide our actions. Identifying them involves reflecting on peak experiences, moments of frustration, and our desired legacy. Once identified, we need to define what these values mean to us in practical terms.
And then, the most critical step, consistently assessing our leadership actions against these values. When we find a misalignment, we intentionally adjust our behavior to bring it back into sync. This ensures we lead with authenticity, build trust, and operate with a strong sense of purpose.
It really sounds like the bedrock of authentic and effective leadership. When your actions are a true expression of who you are and what you believe in, you're unstoppable.
Indeed, this alignment between your values and your actions creates a powerful inner conviction that radiates outwards. People are drawn to leaders they perceive as genuine and principled. So, I encourage everyone to spend time this week really digging into their core values. What truly drives you?
And to start making those conscious adjustments to ensure your leadership compass is pointing true.
Absolutely. Next episode, we're going to explore another vital aspect of self-awareness, understanding and managing your emotions, your internal emotional thermometer. Next episode, the emotional thermometer, tracking your feelings. Welcome back to the Self-Awareness Journal. Last time, we explored the compass of purpose, aligning your core values to guide your leadership. Today, we're diving into a fundamental aspect of leadership, understanding and managing our emotions. We're calling this episode the emotional thermometer, tracking your feelings.
Tracking our feelings, that sounds so crucial, Alex. Sometimes I get caught up in a situation and only realize later how I was feeling and why. It's like my emotions are a mystery I'm only solving after the fact.
Exactly, Lisa. And that's where this episode will really help. We're going to introduce the practice of emotional tracking. Think of it as developing an internal thermometer for your feelings. It's about identifying, understanding, and learning to manage those emotions in real time, rather than just reacting to them later. This is a cornerstone of emotional intelligence, which is absolutely vital for effective leadership.
So, it's not about suppressing emotions, but about being aware of them?
Precisely. Suppressing emotions is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes a lot of energy, and eventually it's going to pop up unexpectedly, often with more force. True emotional intelligence is about acknowledging your emotions, understanding what they're telling you, and then choosing a constructive response. So, let's start with the first step, identifying your emotions. How do you do that?
Well, sometimes it feels obvious. If I'm feeling frustrated, that's pretty clear. But sometimes it's more subtle, or maybe I feel a mix of things.
That's a great point. Emotions can be complex, and often we experience a blend. The first part of tracking is simply labeling what you're feeling. We often use very broad terms like good or bad, but we need to get more specific. Instead of bad, are you feeling sad, anxious, disappointed, or perhaps overwhelmed? Instead of good, are you feeling joyful, excited, content, or relieved?
I like that. It's like expanding our emotional vocabulary. When we can name it, we can understand it better.
Exactly. And to help you do this, I recommend keeping a simple journal, even just a few notes on your phone. When you notice a strong emotion, pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Try to find the most accurate word. Is it apprehension, irritation, gratitude, boredom? The more precise you are, the clearer the picture becomes.
Okay, so first, identify and label the emotions specifically. What's the next step in this emotional tracking process?
The next step is understanding the why. Once you've identified an emotion, ask yourself, what triggered this feeling? What happened just before you started feeling this way? Was it a conversation, a specific event, a thought, or even something you read?
Ah, the trigger. That makes sense. It's like looking for the cause. I remember one time I was feeling incredibly grumpy during a team meeting. I couldn't figure out why. It wasn't until later that I realized I hadn't had my morning coffee, and the lack of caffeine was the trigger for my irritability.
That's a perfect, relatable example, Lisa, and it highlights something important. Sometimes triggers are obvious, like that coffee example, and sometimes they're more complex or subconscious. Our values, which we discussed last time, can also be great indicators of triggers. If something conflicts with a core value, you're likely to feel a strong emotional response.
So, by tracking our emotions and their triggers, we're also getting indirect insights into our values and what's important to us. It's a continuous loop of self discovery.
You've got it. Now, here's where it gets really practical for leadership. Once you've identified the emotion and its trigger, the next step is to understand the emotion itself. What is this feeling trying to tell you? What is its message?
What do you mean by its message? My anger doesn't usually send me well written notes.
No, it doesn't. But think about it metaphorically. Your emotions are signals. Anger, for instance, often signals a boundary violation or an injustice. It's your internal alarm saying, something isn't right here. Fear might be signaling potential danger or a threat. Sadness can signal loss. Joy can signal that something is aligned with your needs or values.
So, instead of just reacting to the anger, I should ask, what boundary is being crossed? What injustice am I perceiving?
Exactly. It's shifting from I feel angry to I feel angry because this happened, and this feeling is trying to tell me that my boundary around fairness has been challenged. This understanding allows you to move from a reactive state to a more proactive and thoughtful one.
This is so powerful. It's like giving your emotions a voice and then listening to what they have to say.
Precisely. And this brings us to the final crucial step, managing your emotional energy. Once you understand the emotion, its trigger, and its message, you can choose how to respond. This doesn't mean becoming emotionless, but rather harnessing that emotional energy constructively.
How do we do that? If I'm feeling intensely frustrated, how do I harness that?
One way is through conscious regulation. If you notice you're feeling a strong emotion that might lead to an unhelpful reaction, you can engage in brief mindfulness exercises. Deep breathing is a classic for a reason. It calms the nervous system. You can also try a quick mental refocusing technique, like visualizing a calm place or reminding yourself of your objective in the situation.
So, a pause, a breath, and a conscious choice about how to proceed.
Yes, and it's also about knowing your own patterns. Are you more prone to feeling stressed before presentations? Do you tend to get defensive when discussing certain topics? Recognizing these patterns is key. Once you know, you can prepare. You can mentally rehearse how you want to respond when those situations arise. This is what we mean by harnessing emotional energy constructively. You use the awareness of your emotions to prepare yourself for better leadership.
So, to recap, we're talking about developing an emotional thermometer. The process involves three main steps. First, identify and label your emotions as specifically as possible. Second, uncover the trigger. What event, thought, or situation caused this feeling? And third, understand the message your emotion is conveying and learn to harness that energy constructively through mindful responses and preparation.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. This practice of emotional tracking of using your emotional thermometer is not just about feeling better, it's about leading better. It allows you to respond to challenges with greater clarity, build stronger relationships by understanding your own and others' emotional states, and ultimately, to make more mindful and effective decisions.
It really connects back to knowing yourself as a leader, doesn't it? Understanding our internal landscape as deeply as we understand our external goals.
Absolutely. And as we move forward in this series, you'll see how this emotional awareness directly impacts every other aspect of self-aware leadership we'll discuss.
This has been incredibly insightful, Alex. I feel like I have a clearer roadmap now for paying attention to my own emotional world.
Wonderful. We've laid the groundwork for understanding your feelings. Next time, we'll explore how to navigate the complex landscape of our interactions with others. We'll be unpacking relationship dynamics. Next episode, Navigating the Human Maze, Relationship Dynamics Unpacked. Welcome back to the Self-Awareness Journey. Today, we're diving into episode 6, Navigating the Human Maze, Relationship Dynamics Unpacked.
That's a great transition, Alex. If our emotions are our internal compass, then understanding how they influence our interactions is crucial for navigating anything, especially relationships. I'm really looking forward to unpacking this.
Absolutely, Lisa. And here's the fundamental truth. Our relationships are often a direct reflection of our inner selves. The way we connect with others, how we communicate, and how we perceive their actions are all filtered through our own unique lens. This lens is shaped by our personality patterns, our experiences, and yes, our self-awareness, or lack thereof.
So it's not just about the other person, but how we show up in the interaction. That's a powerful perspective shift.
Exactly. Think about it. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt a particular colleague was being difficult, only to realize later that your own stress levels were through the roof, and you were projecting that onto them?
Oh, absolutely. I can think of a few times when I felt misunderstood, and upon reflection, I realized my own assumptions or my tone of voice might have been the real culprit. So, self awareness helps us untangle our own contributions to relationship dynamics.
Precisely. This episode will break down how our internal world impacts our external connections. We'll look at how understanding your personality blueprint, something we touched on in episode 2, directly influences how you form and maintain relationships. We'll also revisit your emotional thermometer from episode 5, as tracking your feelings is key to understanding your reactions in social settings.
That makes so much sense. If I'm feeling anxious, I'm likely to be more defensive or withdrawn. If I'm feeling confident, I might be more open and collaborative. It's like our emotional state is broadcasting signals to everyone around us.
It really is. And without self-awareness, those signals can be unintentionally negative. For instance, if you have a tendency towards perfectionism, you might unconsciously micromanage team members, which can breed resentment and shut down communication. That's your internal pattern impacting your external relationships in a tangible way.
So, what are some of the core patterns that affect our relationship dynamics most profoundly?
Great question. One of the most significant is our communication style. Are you direct or indirect? Do you tend to avoid conflict or confront it head on? Are you a good listener or do you tend to interrupt? Understanding your natural communication tendencies is a vital first step. For example, someone who is naturally indirect might struggle to express their needs clearly, leading to frustration for both themselves and the other person.
That's a really good point. I know I sometimes have to consciously remind myself to be more direct when I'm working with people who aren't as attuned to subtle cues. It's about adapting, but from a place of genuine understanding rather than just trying to fit in.
And that adaptation is fueled by self-awareness. When you're aware of your passive tendencies, You can consciously choose to be more assertive when needed. It's not about changing who you are, but about understanding how your natural style can be perceived and adjusting for healthier interactions. Another key element is how we handle conflict. Are you someone who sees conflict as a destructive force to be avoided at all costs, or as an opportunity for growth and deeper understanding?
I think many people, myself included, tend to shy away from conflict. It can feel uncomfortable, even threatening.
It can, and that's a very common human response. However, from a self-awareness perspective, avoiding conflict often means unresolved issues fester. This can create a relational dynamic where one person feels unheard and the other feels constantly on edge, trying to avoid an eruption. When you become aware of your conflict avoidance, you can start to explore why it's so uncomfortable for you. Is it rooted in past experiences? A fear of rejection?
That's a great way to put it. It's not about liking conflict, but about understanding our reaction to it and learning to navigate it constructively. So, we've talked about communication and conflict. What else plays a big role?
Empathy. This is huge. Empathy isn't just about feeling sorry for someone. It's about understanding and sharing the feelings of another. Self-awareness is the bedrock of empathy. The better you understand your own emotions, the better equipped you are to recognize and understand emotions in others. If you've never taken the time to examine your own fear, for example, it will be much harder to truly connect with someone who is expressing fear.
I love that connection. It reinforces that inner work is never truly done in isolation. We're always connected, and understanding ourselves unlocks our ability to connect with others more deeply. So, to recap the key drivers of relationship dynamics we've discussed from a self-aware perspective, there are communication styles, our approach to conflict, and our capacity for empathy, all of which are deeply rooted in our understanding of ourselves.
Exactly. And these aren't static traits. They can evolve as we gain more self-insight. For example, someone who's always been highly critical might become aware of how their harsh judgments push people away. Through self-reflection, they can start to understand the underlying insecurities driving that criticism and begin to cultivate a more compassionate and constructive approach to feedback, both for themselves and for others.
That's so encouraging. It means we're not doomed to repeat the same relational patterns forever. We can actively work on them.
We absolutely can. And this ties directly into building trust. Trust is built on consistency, honesty, and reliability. For a leader, demonstrating these qualities consistently strengthens team cohesion and fosters a positive work environment. When you are self-aware, you are more likely to be honest about your limitations, acknowledge mistakes, and follow through on commitments. These actions build a strong foundation of trust.
So, being self-aware is almost like being a more reliable and trustworthy person overall. The internal clarity translates into external dependability.
You've hit the nail on the head, Lisa. It's about showing up authentically and responsibly. Consider the impact of assumptions. We all make them, but a self-aware individual can recognize when they're making an assumption and take steps to clarify, rather than letting that assumption dictate their actions and potentially damage a relationship. For a leader, this means actively seeking information and understanding, rather than acting on potentially flawed internal narratives.
That makes a lot of sense, especially in a team setting. If I assume a team member is not pulling their weight, but I'm self-aware enough to realize I don't know that for sure, I can then have a conversation to understand their workload or any challenges they might be facing. That's so much healthier than just letting resentment build.
Precisely. It's about moving from reactive behavior driven by unexamined inner states to proactive, intentional engagement. This often involves learning to set healthy boundaries. Being self-aware helps you understand your own limits and communicate them effectively. It also helps you recognize and respect the boundaries of others.
Boundaries are so critical, aren't they? Without them, relationships can become draining or even toxic.
They are. And a self-aware leader understands that setting and respecting boundaries isn't a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength and maturity. It creates a more sustainable and respectful dynamic for everyone involved. To wrap this up for today, remember that navigating the human maze of relationship dynamics is an ongoing process, deeply intertwined with your level of self-awareness. Your communication style, how you handle conflict, your empathy, and how you build trust. These are all areas where self-understanding can transform your connections.
So, to summarize, our relationships are mirrors of our inner selves. By understanding our own communication patterns, how we react to conflict, and our capacity for empathy, we can navigate interactions more effectively. This self-awareness helps us build trust, avoid damaging assumptions, and set healthy boundaries, ultimately leading to stronger, more positive connections.
Well said, Lisa. And that brings us to the end of episode 6. Next time, we'll be shifting our focus to identifying and leveraging your unique strengths.
Looking forward to it.
Join us for episode 7, Identifying Your Superpowers, Recognizing Your Strengths. Welcome back to the Self-Awareness Journal. We're on episode 7. Today, we're shifting focus to something incredibly empowering, identifying your superpowers.
Identifying your superpowers. I love that framing, Alex. We've spent a lot of time looking inward at self-awareness, understanding our personalities, blind spots, values, and emotions. Now, it's about recognizing the amazing things we're already good at and how to use them.
Exactly, Lisa. Think of it this way. Self-awareness isn't just about seeing flaws or areas for improvement, though that's a crucial part. It's also about recognizing your innate talents and honed skills, the things that make you uniquely effective as a leader. These are your superpowers.
So, it's not just about acknowledging them, but actively using them, right? Like knowing you're good at public speaking, but then actually seeking out opportunities to do it.
Precisely. Many leaders, and really many people in general, operate without a clear understanding of their core strengths. They might perform well in certain areas, but they aren't intentionally leveraging what they do best. This episode is about moving from passive performance to active deployment.
How do we even start identifying these superpowers? It can feel a bit abstract.
That's a fair question. The first step is a conscious effort to look for evidence of your effectiveness. Ask yourself, what tasks do I find energizing rather than draining? What activities do I naturally excel at, often without much conscious effort? Where do people naturally turn to me for help or advice?
Those are great questions to start with. The energizing aspect is key. I find that when I'm engaged in something I'm naturally good at, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like flow.
That flow state is a huge indicator of a strength you're using. Your superpowers often lie in those activities where time seems to disappear and you feel fully immersed and capable. Another approach is to think about your accomplishments. What successes have you had, and what specific skills or talents did you employ to achieve them?
Right. So, if I led a successful project, was it my ability to plan meticulously? My skill in motivating a team? My knack for creative problem solving when roadblocks appeared?
Exactly. And this is where self-awareness really shines. You can pinpoint the underlying strengths that led to that success. Don't just say, I was a good leader. Say, I was able to effectively delegate and empower my team members by clearly communicating expectations and offering support. Or, my strength in strategic thinking allowed me to anticipate potential issues and develop contingency plans.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about breaking down the success into its component parts, the specific skills that made it possible. And these are not just personality traits, but actual capabilities we've developed.
Indeed, we can categorize these strengths into a few broad areas to help with identification. There are what we might call innate talents, things you might have been born with a predisposition for, like strong empathy, natural charisma, or a quick analytical mind. Then there are acquired skills, abilities you've developed through learning practice, and experience, such as strategic planning, technical expertise, negotiation, or effective communication.
Okay, so we have our innate talents, our learned skills, and those moments of feeling energized. What happens after we identify them? As you said, it's about actively deploying them.
This is where the real leadership impact happens. Once you've identified your core superpowers, the next step is to intentionally seek opportunities to use them. If your superpower is strategic vision, look for projects that require forward thinking and planning. If it's building relationships, actively engage in networking and team building.
It sounds like it requires a proactive mindset. Instead of waiting for the right task to come along, you actively seek out or even create those opportunities.
Precisely. And this proactive deployment has several benefits. Firstly, it leads to greater personal satisfaction and engagement. When you're using your strengths, you're more likely to feel fulfilled and motivated. Secondly, it significantly increases your effectiveness. You're operating at your highest potential, delivering better results. Thirdly, it builds your confidence. Seeing your strengths consistently lead to positive outcomes reinforces your belief in your own capabilities.
And I imagine it also makes you a more valuable member of any team or organization because you're contributing in ways that genuinely amplify the collective effort.
Absolutely. Think of a sports team. You wouldn't put your star quarterback in as a goalie, right? You utilize their specific talents to their maximum advantage. Leaders need to do the same with themselves and their teams.
So, to recap, we start by noticing what energizes us and where we naturally excel. We reflect on past successes to identify the specific skills and talents that contributed. We can categorize these into innate talents and acquired skills. And then, the crucial step is to actively and intentionally deploy these superpowers, seeking out opportunities to use them.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. And it's important to remember that this isn't a one-time exercise. Your strengths can evolve and new ones can emerge. Regularly revisiting this process of identification and deployment is key to continuous growth and impactful leadership. It's about maximizing your positive influence by leaning into what you do best.
It's such a positive and empowering shift in perspective. Instead of solely focusing on what needs fixing, we're also celebrating and leveraging what's already working brilliantly.
Next episode, embracing the growth edge, honing your weaknesses. Welcome back to the Self-Awareness Journal. We recently explored how to identify your innate strengths. Now, let's tackle a topic that often makes us uncomfortable, our weaknesses.
Uncomfortable is an understatement, Alex. Most people would rather avoid talking about where they fall short. But if self-awareness is about truly knowing ourselves, we have to look at our weaknesses, not just our strengths.
Exactly, Lisa. This episode is crucial. We're calling it Embracing the Growth Edge, Honing Your Weaknesses. The key is how we frame it. Instead of seeing weaknesses as permanent flaws, we'll explore how to view them as opportunities for growth, the growth edge.
The growth edge. I like that. It sounds less like a dead end and more like a frontier to explore. So, Alex, how do we begin to approach this growth edge compassionately and constructively?
The first step is observation without judgment. We need to turn that same curious, non-judgmental gaze inward at areas where we consistently stumble. Think about recurring challenges in your work, relationships, or everyday tasks. Where do you feel a consistent sense of frustration or inadequacy?
So, it's about noticing patterns, not beating ourselves up about them. For example, if I'm always rushing a project because I'm terrible at time management, the observation is, I tend to underestimate how long tasks will take, not, I'm a completely disorganized mess.
That's a perfect example, Lisa. The first observation is factual and points to a specific behavior. The second is harsh self-criticism that shuts down any possibility of improvement. Once we've observed these patterns, the next step is to understand why they exist. Are they a lack of skill, a fear, a misplaced belief about ourselves?
That's where it gets a bit deeper, isn't it? When we looked at strengths, it was easier to see where they came from. With weaknesses, it feels like digging.
It can feel that way, but it's incredibly rewarding. Think of it like this. A strength is a well-worn path in the forest, easy to travel. A weakness is an overgrown trail. It takes effort to clear, but once you do, it opens up new possibilities. For instance, if your weakness is public speaking, is it a lack of practice, a fear of judgment, or a perfectionist tendency?
That makes sense. And once we understand the root cause, then what? We can't just accept them.
Absolutely not. That's where the honing part of our episode title comes in. We need to actively work on these areas. For a skill-based weakness, like public speaking or a technical skill, the solution is practice and education. Seek out workshops, take online courses, volunteer for opportunities to build that skill.
So, it's like any other learning process. You wouldn't expect to play a musical instrument perfectly without practice, so why expect to be a master communicator overnight?
Precisely. Now, if the weakness stems from a fear or a limiting belief, that requires a different approach. This might involve mindfulness techniques, journaling, or even seeking support from a coach or therapist. It's about reframing those internal narratives and building resilience. For example, if you fear criticism, practicing active listening and separating constructive feedback from personal attacks can be incredibly powerful.
I think many of us have limiting beliefs that create our weaknesses. That inner voice that says, "You're not good enough at this," can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, we need to challenge that voice.
Exactly. And this is where progressive building is so important. You don't try to climb Mount Everest on your first day out. We suggest setting small, achievable goals. If public speaking is your weakness, start by speaking up more in team meetings. Then, maybe volunteer to give a short presentation to a small group. Gradually increase the challenge as you gain confidence and competence. Each small success builds on the last.
It's about creating momentum. And I imagine that the act of working on a weakness itself can become a strength. The discipline, the resilience you build, the willingness to be vulnerable and learn, those are all valuable leadership qualities.
You've hit on a key point, Lisa. Often, the process of addressing a weakness transforms it into a unique strength. Someone who has struggled with empathy might become exceptionally good at understanding diverse perspectives because they've had to work so hard to develop that skill. They've learned what it feels like to not have it, and therefore, they appreciate and cultivate it more deeply.
So, we should look for the hidden strengths that emerge from the process of improvement. That's a powerful way to reframe it.
Definitely. And remember our concept of the growth edge from earlier? This is where it truly comes alive. Think of it as the boundary between what you can do comfortably and what challenges you just enough to stretch your capabilities. By consistently pushing against that edge, you expand your skill set and your confidence. It's a continuous journey of learning and development.
It sounds like embracing our weaknesses isn't about erasing them entirely, but about understanding them, improving them to a functional level, and recognizing the personal growth that comes from the effort.
That's a fantastic summary. Lisa, to recap for our listeners, first, observe your recurring challenges without judgment. Second, understand the root cause. Is it a skill gap or an internal block like fear? Third, develop a plan for improvement through practice, education, or addressing limiting beliefs. And finally, embrace the growth edge by consistently and intentionally pushing yourself in those areas, turning potential liabilities into opportunities for developing resilience and deeper self-awareness.
It's about progress, not perfection. And the courage to face those parts of ourselves that feel less than perfect is where true leadership growth begins.
Well said. And this mindful approach to our weaknesses is fundamental to how we interact with others. That's exactly what we'll be exploring next time. Next episode, Navigating the Human Maze, Relationship Dynamics Unpacked. Welcome back to the Self-Awareness Journal. Last time we explored honing your weaknesses.
That was powerful, Alex. Acknowledging areas for improvement is key. But sometimes the hardest part isn't spotting weaknesses ourselves, it's when someone else points them out.
Exactly, Lisa. And that's precisely what we're diving into today for episode 9, The Mirror of Feedback. We'll explore how to view constructive criticism not as an attack, but as a valuable gift that can significantly refine our self-awareness and leadership.
Feedback. Such a simple word, but it can evoke so many feelings, can it? Sometimes excitement, sometimes dread, sometimes defensiveness.
Absolutely. But the truth is, feedback is one of the most potent tools we have for growth. Think of it like a mirror. It shows us aspects of ourselves that we might not see clearly or even see at all. It reflects our actions, our words, and their impact on others.
A mirror? I like that. Sometimes the reflection is flattering, and sometimes it's not. But even the less flattering reflections can teach us something, if we're willing to look. So, what's the first step to using this mirror effectively?
The first step, and arguably the most critical, is shifting your mindset. Instead of viewing feedback as personal criticism, train yourself to see it as information. Information about how your behavior is perceived and its consequences. This is about your actions and their impact, not a judgment of your character.
So, it's about detaching our ego from the feedback. If someone says, your presentation could have been more engaging, it's not saying, you're not an engaging person. It's a specific observation about a specific event.
Precisely. And to help with that detachment, we need to cultivate a stance of openness. This means actively listening without interrupting, without formulating your defense. Try to truly hear what the other person is saying. Ask clarifying questions to ensure you understand their perspective. Questions like, can you give me an example of what you mean by that? Or what specific impact did that have?
That's a great point. Sometimes defensiveness kicks in so fast, we don't even process what's being said. Asking clarifying questions also shows the other person that you're taking their feedback seriously, which can make the conversation more productive.
Indeed. And once you've listened and clarified, the next crucial step is analysis. This is where you start to extract the valuable insights. Not all feedback is equally useful, and not all of it will be accurate. You need to evaluate it objectively. Consider the source. Does this person have your best interests at heart? Do they have a good understanding of the situation?
And what if the feedback feels completely off? Or if multiple people are saying very different things?
That's a common scenario. When faced with conflicting feedback, look for patterns. If several people consistently point out a similar issue, even if the specifics differ, there's likely a core truth there. Also, consider your own self-awareness. Does this feedback resonate with anything you already suspect about yourself? Remember our earlier episodes on blind spots and personality patterns? This is where that knowledge comes into play.
Yes. Connecting the dots. So, we listen, clarify, and then analyze for patterns and resonance. What happens after we've analyzed it? Do we just file it away?
Not quite. Analysis leads to integration. This is where you decide what you'll do with the feedback. Some feedback might require immediate action. If you realize a specific behavior is consistently causing problems, you'll want to work on changing it. This might involve learning new skills, adjusting your approach, or practicing different communication techniques.
So, it's not just about hearing criticism, it's about acting on it to improve. That sounds like growth in action.
Exactly. And this leads us to the practical tools for integrating feedback. One effective method is to keep a feedback journal. When you receive feedback, jot it down. Note who gave it, the context, what was said, and how you felt about it initially. Then, over time, revisit these entries. You might notice recurring themes. You can also use this journal to track your progress on any changes you decide to make.
A feedback journal. That's a tangible way to process and remember. I can see how reviewing past feedback would reinforce the learning.
Another powerful tool is seeking feedback proactively. Don't wait for it to be given. Ask for it. After a project, a meeting, or a significant interaction, ask trusted colleagues or mentors, what's one thing I could have done differently to make this situation even better? Or what was one strength you observed and one area where you think I could develop further?
Asking for it, that takes courage, doesn't it? It feels a bit like willingly walking into a mirror and asking it to point out your flaws.
It does. But it's an incredibly effective way to build trust and demonstrate your commitment to growth. When you actively seek feedback, you're signaling that you value others' perspectives and are eager to improve. This often leads to more thoughtful and constructive responses.
So, to recap what we've discussed so far, it's about shifting our mindset from criticism to information, actively listening, clarifying to ensure understanding, analyzing for patterns and resonance, and then taking action through integration. And we have tools like a feedback journal and proactively seeking feedback.
You got it, Lisa. And it's crucial to remember that this process is ongoing. Self-awareness isn't a destination. It's a journey, and feedback is a vital compass on that journey. By learning to embrace constructive criticism, we not only enhance our own leadership capabilities, but also foster stronger, more trust-based relationships with those around us.
It really highlights how feedback, when received well, is a significant part of our leadership growth. It's like polishing that self-awareness mirror, making our reflection clearer and our path forward more defined.
Well said, Lisa. And that brings us to the end of this episode, the mirror of feedback. Next time, we'll explore how this personal growth and awareness extends outwards, impacting our team dynamics.
Next episode, the ripple effect, self-awareness in team dynamics.
Welcome back. Last time, we dove deep into the mirror of feedback. Today, we're exploring the ripple effect of self-awareness on team dynamics.
It's easy to see self-awareness as individual, but its power amplifies when it influences how we interact. So, how does a leader's internal self-awareness create external harmony for their team?
A leader's internal state directly impacts the team's atmosphere. When the leader is in tune, grounded, and clear, that resonance can spread throughout the team.
So, a self-aware leader is like the steady hand on the tiller, guiding the whole ship. What are some of the first tangible impacts we see?
One of the most immediate impacts is on psychological safety. When a leader understands their own triggers and biases, they're less likely to react defensively, creating space for open dialogue.
Psychological safety. That's that feeling of being able to speak up without fear. A self-aware leader, by understanding their own fallibility, can foster that in others.
Exactly. They model vulnerability. For instance, if a self-aware leader recognizes they tend to get anxious, they can proactively communicate that or manage their own reaction, rather than projecting it onto the team. Instead of shutting down conversation, they might say, "Okay, this is a challenge. Let's brainstorm solutions together."
That's a great example. They're managing their own internal state, so it doesn't derail the team's progress or morale. It's emotional intelligence in action.
Precisely. And this leads directly into communication. A self-aware leader understands their communication style and how it might be perceived. They can adapt their approach to ensure their message is heard and understood.
So they're not just saying what they need to say, but they're considering how they're saying it and to whom. That feels like a huge step up.
It is, and it fosters better listening within the team too. When a leader is genuinely listening and is aware of their own interruptions, It encourages others to do the same. This creates a much more collaborative environment. Remember constructive criticism? A self-aware leader creates the kind of team environment where that feedback can thrive.
Right.
It's a two-way street. The leader models the behavior they want to see. So, beyond safety and communication, how does a leader's self-awareness boost productivity and performance?
When a leader understands their own strengths and weaknesses, they're better equipped to delegate effectively. They know who on the team has the skills for a particular task and who might need support. This prevents burnout and ensures tasks are handled by the most capable individuals, leading to higher quality work.
That's brilliant. It's about leveraging the team's collective strengths instead of trying to do everything themselves. It's strategic delegation driven by self-knowledge.
And it ties into conflict resolution. Conflicts are inevitable. A self-aware leader understands their own biases and emotional responses during conflict. They can approach disagreements with more objectivity, focusing on the issue at hand rather than getting personal.
So they can act as a neutral, or at least a more balanced, mediator if needed.
Exactly. They can identify their own role in the conflict and work towards a resolution that benefits the team, rather than escalating the situation with their own unexamined reactions. They might recognize, I tend to get impatient. I need to pause and hear them out fully. This self-awareness helps de-escalate tensions.
This is all so interconnected. It really paints a picture of how a leader's internal journey directly fuels the success and well-being of their team. It's about creating a synergistic environment.
And it extends to fostering innovation. When a leader is secure in themselves, they're more open to new ideas, even those that challenge their own thinking. They're not afraid of being wrong. This encourages team members to propose novel solutions and experiment.
So, a self-aware leader creates a fertile ground for creativity. They're the catalyst for a multitude of ideas from everyone on the team. It's a multiplier effect.
Precisely. When we talk about the ripple effect, we mean that a leader's internal growth radiates outwards, influencing how others feel, communicate, collaborate, and perform. It all starts from within.
It's like dropping a pebble into a calm lake. The initial splash is personal, but the ripples spread out, touching every part of the water's surface. So, to recap, self-awareness in leadership fosters psychological safety, improves communication, enables effective delegation, strengthens conflict resolution, and sparks innovation. These are all critical components of a healthy team.
Absolutely. And it's a continuous process. Just as we've explored throughout this series, self-awareness is a journey. A leader who commits to this ongoing growth will undoubtedly build stronger, more resilient, and more effective teams. Their internal shifts create external harmony.
What a powerful way to think about leadership. It's about leading yourself first, and then allowing that clarity and strength to empower everyone around you.
Next episode, The Leader's Journey, Overcoming Challenges with Self-Awareness. Welcome back, everyone, to the Self-Awareness Journal. This is episode 11, focusing on the leader's journey, overcoming challenges with self-awareness. Today, we're putting our knowledge to the test, facing inevitable leadership hurdles.
It's true, Alex. No leader's path is a straight climb. There are always detours and moments that make you question everything. That's precisely why this episode is crucial. We're connecting the dots between our self-awareness tools and how they help us navigate tough times.
Exactly. Remember episode 1? Self-awareness as a leadership superpower. Think about it. When a crisis hits, what's your first instinct?
Usually, a rush of emotions. Panic, frustration, defensiveness. Without self-awareness, those emotions can derail us, leading to impulsive reactions that make things worse.
Precisely. That's where our emotional thermometer comes in, from episode 5. When you're self-aware, you pause and identify those feelings. Are you feeling fear? Anger? Recognizing these emotions, without letting them control you, is the first step to a measured response. It's the difference between being swept away by a tidal wave and learning to surf.
So, instead of lashing out, a self-aware leader acknowledges, okay, I'm feeling anxious because of this setback. That acknowledgement grants space to think, what's the best way forward? Rather than just reacting.
You've got it. And this ties into understanding personality patterns and blind spots from episodes 2 and 3. Challenges often illuminate our ingrained tendencies. Maybe a setback triggers perfectionism, leading to micromanagement or activates avoidance.
Ah, the blind spots. Those areas we don't see about ourselves, but that can trip us up. A leader aware of their blind spots will be more attuned when a challenge arises, watching for signs that a negative pattern might be surfacing.
Absolutely. If you know you tend to be overly optimistic and miss risks, a challenging situation is when you need to consciously counter that tendency. You'd actively seek out dissenting opinions and really listen when others point out potential problems. It's about intentionally managing your natural inclinations when they could lead you astray.
It sounds like being proactive, not just reactive, but also having an honest internal dialogue. And that leads us back to episode 4, the compass of purpose and aligning your values. When things get tough, our values are our anchor.
Exactly. When facing adversity, it's easy to get lost and compromise your principles. But a self-aware leader remembers their core values. Are you committed to integrity, to fairness? Reconnecting with those values provides clarity and a sturdy foundation for decisions. It helps you ask, what decision aligns with who I want to be as a leader, even in this difficult situation?
That's a powerful filter. So, it's not just managing emotions and personality quirks, it's about making decisions that are fundamentally sound and aligned with your true north. Speaking of making decisions, we also need to talk about strengths and weaknesses, covered in episodes 7 and 8.
This is critical. Challenges often force us to stretch beyond our comfort zones. A self-aware leader understands their key strengths and knows when to leverage them. If you're a natural problem solver, a crisis might be an opportunity to truly shine by systematically tackling the issues. But you also know your weaknesses.
And you don't try to tackle a weakness head on when under immense pressure. Instead, you might delegate that aspect to someone else on your team whose strength it is. Or you might seek mentorship.
Yes, that's the growth edge we talked about. When a challenge arises, a self-aware leader doesn't shy away. They see it as a chance to learn and develop. They know that confronting a weakness, even in a high-stakes situation, can lead to significant growth. This isn't about brute force. It's about strategic self-development.
And this ties in so directly with feedback, doesn't it? Episode 9, The Mirror of Feedback. Challenges are often accompanied by feedback, sometimes critical feedback. A self-aware leader, having practiced receiving feedback throughout the series, is far better equipped to handle it constructively.
They can separate the message from the delivery. Even if the feedback is harsh, they can ask themselves, is there any truth here? They won't immediately become defensive. Instead, they'll analyze it objectively, perhaps seeing it as a gift that illuminates an area for improvement. This is especially true when dealing with team dynamics, as we explore in episode 10.
Right. Challenges within a team can magnify individual issues. A leader who understands their team members' personalities and communication styles and has a handle on their own impact can navigate those interpersonal storms much more effectively. They can foster open communication and address conflict with a focus on solutions, not blame.
So, to pull it all together, when a challenge hits a self-aware leader, first, they recognize and name their emotions, preventing an emotional hijack. Second, they understand their personality patterns and blind spots and actively manage them. Third, they anchor themselves to their core values, ensuring principled decision-making. Fourth, they strategically leverage their strengths, delegate their weaknesses, and embrace the learning opportunity. And fifth, they're open to feedback, even when it's difficult to learn and adapt.
It's like having a comprehensive toolkit for resilience. Instead of just reacting with stress and anxiety, you have a framework for understanding, responding, and growing through adversity. It's not about avoiding challenges, but about facing them with confidence and clarity.
And that confidence and clarity come directly from the deep well of self-awareness we've been cultivating. This journey isn't about becoming a perfect leader overnight, but about becoming a leader who is continuously learning, adapting, and leading with integrity, even when the path is steep.
It's about building that inner strength that supports you when the external pressures are greatest. It's a powerful skill set that transforms difficult moments into opportunities for growth, not just for the leader, but for their entire team.
Indeed. And that brings us to the final episode of our series. We've covered so much ground, from understanding your inner blueprint to leading with impact. Next episode, the masterpiece unfolds, creating your self-aware leadership vision. Welcome back, everyone, to the final episode of the Self-Awareness Journal podcast. Today, we're bringing it all together in the masterpiece unfolds, creating your self-aware leadership vision.
It's hard to believe we've reached the end of our series, Alex. We've journeyed through understanding ourselves, our strengths, our challenges, and how all of that impacts our leadership.
Absolutely, Lisa. This episode is all about synthesis. It's about taking everything we've learned over the past 11 episodes and crafting a clear, actionable vision for your self-aware leadership. Think of it as painting the final touches on your masterpiece.
So, after all these deep dives, what's the first step in actually creating this vision?
The first step is to recall and revisit the core elements we've explored. Remember episode 1, where we introduced self-awareness as your leadership superpower. That's the foundation. Everything else has built upon that initial understanding of needing to know yourself to lead effectively.
Right.
And we unpacked our blueprints in episode 2, recognizing our unique personality patterns. That felt like getting the basic structure of our canvas.
Exactly. Then, in episode 3, we talked about shifting your lens to uncover our blind spots. How important it is to see what we can't see ourselves. This is like adding primer, preparing the canvas for the real detail.
And our compass of purpose from episode 4 gave us our direction. Aligning our values meant knowing what truly matters to us as leaders. That's like choosing your palette of essential colors.
Perfect analogy. Then, in episode 5, we focused on the emotional thermometer, learning to track our feelings. Understanding our emotions and how they influence our decisions and interactions is crucial. This is about understanding the temperature and mood of your painting.
Episode 6, Navigating the Human Maze, was all about relationship dynamics, realizing how our self-awareness impacts how we connect with others. That's about adding the background scenery and characters to our masterpiece.
And then we spent a few episodes really diving into our internal landscape. Episode 7, Identifying Your Superpowers, helped us recognize our strengths. These are the vibrant, powerful strokes in our painting.
While episode 8, Embracing the Growth Edge, encouraged us to hone our weaknesses. These are the shadows and subtle details that add depth and realism, making the whole picture more compelling.
Precisely. We then moved to how we receive information about ourselves with episode 9, The Mirror of Feedback, integrating constructive criticism. That's like stepping back and looking at your work with fresh eyes, making adjustments.
And episode 10, The Ripple Effect, showed us how our self-awareness impacts entire teams. This is recognizing that our individual painting is part of a much larger exhibition.
And finally, in episode 11, The Leader's Journey, we discussed overcoming challenges with self-awareness. This is the ongoing process of refinement, weathering storms that might affect the artwork.
So, To create our leadership vision, we first need to acknowledge all these building blocks. It's not just one thing, but a combination of understanding our personality, values, emotions, strengths, weaknesses, and how we interact with others.
Absolutely. Now, to create your vision, I want you to think about this. What does your ideal self-aware leader look like in action? Don't just think about what you want to be, but visualize it. Picture yourself in a challenging leadership situation. How do you respond? How do you communicate? How do you make decisions?
This sounds like a visualization exercise. So, I should imagine myself in a high pressure scenario and then reflect on how my self awareness, my values, my emotional regulation, all of that plays out.
Exactly. It's about bringing together all the learned behaviors and insights. Your vision isn't static. It's a dynamic picture of your leadership in practice. So, what core principles from our series will be non-negotiable in your leadership vision?
For me, I'd say integrity, which ties back to our values, and empathy, which is a huge part of understanding relationships and emotional intelligence. Those are two pillars.
Excellent. Integrity and empathy. Those are strong anchors. Now, how will you proactively cultivate and strengthen your self-awareness going forward? What practices will you integrate into your daily or weekly routine?
I think regular reflection is key. Maybe journaling, like we've discussed, or even just a few minutes of quiet thought at the end of each day to process what happened and how I reacted. And certainly, continuing to be open to feedback.
Those are excellent, actionable commitments, Lisa. Proactive reflection and seeking feedback. This is how you ensure your masterpiece doesn't gather dust. You're actively maintaining and refining it.
So, the vision isn't just a destination, but a commitment to the ongoing journey of improvement. It's about knowing where you're going and how you'll continuously get there.
Precisely. Your self-aware leadership vision should be aspirational yet achievable. It's a guiding star. Consider, what impact do you want to have on your team, your organization, and your field by leading with this deep self-understanding?
That's a powerful question. I want to foster an environment where people feel safe to be themselves, where innovation thrives because everyone feels heard and valued, and where challenges are met with resilience and collaboration.
That's a beautiful vision, Lisa. Fostering safety, encouraging innovation, and promoting resilience and collaboration. These are the hallmarks of truly impactful leadership.
And it all stems from that initial step of knowing ourselves. If we don't understand our own biases, our own motivations, our own emotional triggers, how can we possibly create an environment for others?
You've summarized it perfectly. This vision isn't just for you. It's about how your leadership positively influences everyone around you. It's the ripple effect in action, amplified by your own inner clarity.
So, to create this vision, we're essentially synthesizing all the lessons. 1. Revisit the foundation. Understand your personality blueprints and core values. 2. Embrace visibility. Actively seek out and address your blind spots and weaknesses. 3. Master your inner world. Continuously track and manage your emotions. 4. Cultivate connection. Nurture healthy relationships by understanding yourself and others. 5. Leverage your assets. Proactively identify and utilize your strengths. 6. Seek external insight. Integrate feedback as a tool for growth. 7. Visualize impact. Imagine your ideal self-aware leader in action and articulate the positive impact you want to make. 8. Commit to practice. Establish ongoing routines for reflection and continuous learning.
That's a fantastic breakdown, Lisa. You've created a clear framework for building that vision. Remember, this is your leadership masterpiece. It will evolve, it will be refined, but by having this clear vision, you're charting a course for impactful, authentic, and ultimately, more fulfilling leadership.
It's been such an incredible journey exploring self-awareness with you, Alex, and with our listeners. Thank you for guiding us through this series.
The pleasure has been all mine, Lisa. And thank you to everyone who has joined us for the Self-Awareness Journal podcast. We hope this series has equipped you with the tools and insights to not only know yourself better, but to lead better.
Thanks for listening to this series.